So it's late in the day on a beautiful Friday in Washington, D.C. So I'm delighted for the people who have stayed in the room and are here for this particular presentation. But I'm really delighted to be at the Council of Competitiveness. There is something about having partnerships and having partnerships to that help us as a through line. And I think that you'll see that was that's really the gravamen of the study that I'm going to talk about, and that's really the focus of my remarks. A few years ago, I was actually speaking at an education reform conference at Stanford University. The attendees came from around Silicon Valley, venture capitalists, business, think tanks, academia. The fixation on test scores as the be-all and the end-all in public education was at its height. And because it wasn't working so well even then, there was widespread teacher bashing. And in a moment of utter frustration in front of all these tech types, I got out of my kind of prepared remarks and I simply said, help us. Teachers and schools can't do this alone. We need partners. It was as if I had issued a call to prayer, because suddenly the hundreds of heads in the audience bowed down. Not in prayer, actually, but frankly, to avoid making eye contact with me. But I did get one call from the head of a UK-based network of learning materials for teachers, the head of TES. A year later, we launched something we called Share My Lesson, an online community and source where teachers can find top-rated lesson plans and teaching resources. And today, Share My Lesson, which is about to go through a new iteration, is one of the largest online communities for educators with 862,000 members, 314 resources, and more than 10 million downloads. We couldn't have done this alone, and these are not our members. Anybody can get on here for free. We couldn't have done this alone, but we were able to accomplish this because of the partnership with TES. Now, why do I tell this story as the beginning of talking about talent? Because none of us can do it alone. There's incredible talent in this room. Myself, I've been the CEO of 2 major unions with millions of members and multi-million-dollar budgets. But I could not have had the career I have had without many partners and, frankly, many mentors along the way. And in the same vein, neither schools nor the business community alone can create the diversely skilled and adaptable workforce that I've heard many of you talk about all day long, particularly the workforce we need in a knowledge-driven economy. And that's why there is a synergy between the work that we do and the Council's report work, thriving in a turbulent, technological, and transformed global economy. Try to say that 3 times fast. Because it offers ways that educators, industry, and government can work together. Let me raise 3 quick issues. The report acknowledges that we're moving from a brute force to a brain force economy. Brute force to brain force. Strengthening career and technical education in America's public schools is a key way to accomplish that. It helps to shift the workforce to a high-skill, knowledge-based workforce. Now, some of us, and I've been in this room at different times through these forums and have talked about CTE. And oftentimes people say, CTE, Career Tech Ed, isn't that the old voc ed? Which in the past was associated with limiting opportunity. But high-quality CTE is different. It develops the knowledge and the skills needed for in-demand jobs or for further education. CTE can be a valued pathway to high school graduation or to community college
or to four-year university, or to good jobs. But many CTE programs, even today, struggle to obtain the equipment, the personnel, the funding, the partners, and the opportunities to make it a successful experience. As the Council's work report details, we need to elevate CTE programs as priorities for federal, state, and local governments to work alongside high schools, universities, community colleges, and industry. We need an unprecedented partnership and coordination on everything from curriculum and certification requirements to externships for educators to develop their skills and the connections with employers to equipment, mentoring, job shadowing, internships, and apprenticeships. That's a long laundry list, but it essentially means the connection between industry and education. That's essentially what it means. And great CTE programs work on so many levels. Look, I taught at a CTE school, and I'm really passionate about it. I taught at Clara Barton High School for the health professions in the 90s in New York City. But what do they do? Ask the students, educators, and employers that are involved in them. They're deeply engaging. They keep kids in school who might otherwise drop out. They provide real-world experiences that open students' eyes to possibilities beyond school. They provide employers with the workers who are ready and able on day one. They lead to better diversification and to real diversity. And frankly, you go to some place like the food industry school in New York City, where there's a tilapia farm in the basement and an herb garden on the roof, or to the harbor school where kids are harvesting oysters, and it's just plain cool. Programs vary from health science to hospitality, video production, architecture, construction, computer programming. There's a range of possibilities these days throughout the United States. They need the coordination and they need the nexus with employers. CTE educators deeply understand the value of these programs. And that came through very recently in an AFT study. They're passionate and enthusiastic about this, but they're also frustrated because they need more time. Yes, an educator is talking about more time to work closely with students. They need to help students develop engaging projects. We need to cultivate the connections with business, and they lament, if you go to any high school these days, except for a few, how hard it is to get up-to-date equipment, technology, and instructional resources. But they're desperate for the partnerships with business and other partners. So we at the AFT have actually tried to start some of this. We have an innovation fund. It's small, it's not very large, it's about $1.5 million, but this past year we have devoted it all to partnerships on CTE. And we call it Promising Pathways in 5 cities. So in Peoria, Illinois, we funded a staff person to connect students and employers for internships, job shadowing, and summer jobs. In Miami, that's Miami, Florida, a union district higher ed partnership is creating pathways into the expanding digital media labor market. Of course, we went to San Francisco, and our union there is partnering with the school district on an ambitious initiative to develop skills and knowledge in computer science for all K-12 students starting in middle school. In Pittsburgh, and Arnie Duncan and Secretary Perez and I are going to this Pittsburgh school in a couple of weeks from now. We've created an emergency response technology program that includes credits at the local community college to prepare kids for good jobs in Pittsburgh as police officers, firefighters, and EMT workers. Something pretty important right now, given all of the racial issues we've had in terms of policing. Now, I said 5 cities. New York City is part of it as well, but they didn't need the funding from us because New York City has been a real leader in this. And the United Federation of Teachers, the local, my home local, has become a leader in this area and a mentor to others. The UFT has been working with industry partners to train teachers in a variety of software, hardware, and network security programs, and they call their program, I want to see your faces, NICE. National Institute for Certification for Education. These partnerships help ensure that high school students have access to academic rigor and pathways to post-secondary education and, frankly, to jobs. Take Lily Mohammed. Lily graduated from the Pratt Technical High School in Milford, Connecticut. So now I'm on to my 5th state here. It's part of that state's network of technical high schools that are preparing kids for both post-secondary and the workforce. Lily went to work for Sikorsky Aircraft straight out of high school. She's earning $70,000 a year, more than beginning teachers, and she's close to graduating from college. College paid for by her employer. There are so many other stories like this, but wouldn't it be nice if we could actually fill so many more of the jobs that you want and have that connection? Last 2 things I want to just raise. Obviously, I talked about CTE, but there's also the issue about higher education and lifelong learning. The Council's work report notes that we have to align education, training, and workforce development to prepare the full spectrum of our workers, high school and college graduates, adult workers, and mature workers. But how do you do that when higher education is starting to become prohibitively expensive? It's a huge obstacle. There's probably ways of doing it, and you have already within some of the people who are part of the council, dual enrollment programs that are currently available to some high school students who are able to earn credits while still in school, therefore obviously cutting the cost of a college degree. And I want to shout out John Deere and also Sikorsky and other companies who have provided such benefits. But we have in the United States the challenge of a massive education debt burden and the challenge of huge underinvestment in colleges, particularly state-run colleges. And we need some help from you in helping to deal with these issues. And the last issue I want to talk about is that it's not just a college degree that's a challenge. You know this, frankly, better than I do. We need to focus on adult workers. Employers need to invest in their human assets through education and training, and frankly, many labor unions can help you. We have models for doing this. Training workers at the beginning of their careers with apprenticeships, providing ongoing training to keep workers' skills up to date, unionized electricians, carpenters, machine workers, welders, healthcare workers, as well as teachers. We have learned how to provide high-quality professional development. I started by talking about Share My Lesson. That is one of the things we are doing as we expand it to create online webinars within a community of teachers. So last is this. Preparing students and workers for lifelong and lifetime success is a key value for us, but we need help. And one of the things that we can do together, something that Stan Litow from IBM and I just did this week, walking through the halls of Congress to try and get them to promote the new Perkins Legislation, which on the heels of a revamped ESEA, I think we can really get done, on the heels of the revamped education law that is going through Congress right now. Even in an election year, if business was out there working with us, we could put these high-quality CTE programs on steroids if we had new Perkins legislation. So, in conclusion, when I ask you for help, I'm not hopefully begging like I did Louise Rogers of in that seminar I went to years ago. But I'm asking for your help, because if we have these kind of partnerships, we are going to help more and more and more young people. So I hope you don't bow your head. I hope you actually roll up your sleeves and help us. You have ready partners in America's labor unions, in our public schools, and in our universities. But we need you to help us with mentoring, with job sharing, with creating that engagement for kids so that they know that when they dream their dreams, they actually can achieve them in places of work all across America. Thank you very much.